Koopa, a guy that stood out to you on this list was Georgia transfer wide receiver Zachariah Branch. Why is he somebody that has a lot to prove?
Well, because he's at his second spot, and you talk about a guy that was ranked the number one receiver in the country just 2 years ago. A lot of expectations coming with Zachariah Branch and the type of player that we thought he could be. You know, the player comp's coming out. I mean, you think about this guy, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. This guy was lightning in a bottle, explosive. We saw flashes of that as a freshman. We saw flashes of that last year as well. And you look at that USC receiver room, Deuce Robinson, Zachariah Branch, you have guys like Jacoby Lane, Kyron Hudson. It was more of a committee approach. And I think at Georgia's looking for that guy too, right? Because outside of Ladd McConkey, Brock Bowers, who they had 2 years ago, they haven't been able to find any type of consistency. Now Carson Beck's out and Gunnar Stockton's in. What I think the major difference is going to be there is you're going to be seeing a lot more of the passing game really kind of start and end at or behind the line of scrimmage. And that is going to give a lot of opportunity to guys like Zachariah Branch. Now, where does he fit in? Is this going to be a guy that they consistently feed? Because you and I talked about this. Zachariah Branch as a playmaker with the ball in his hand is a lot different than Zachariah Branch, the route runner. Those guys are in two different, completely different categories in terms of where they are in their development. So Georgia, Mike Bobo, they need to be looking at Zachariah Branch and saying, all right, we didn't have a home run hitter in our offense last year outside of Arian Smith, who struggled to catch the football. How do we get Zachariah Branch the most amount of touches possible? So whether that's in the return game, whether that's finding a different way to utilize him, we kind of talked about it. It's kind of like the Kadarius Toney treatment a little bit as well. So he's one of those guys. I want to see him live up to the billing, and Georgia needs him to live up to the billing. That's really the biggest thing at the end of the day.
Yeah, Coop. When you look at him, I'm always asking, is he a receiver? Is he a running back? Is he just straight gadget guy? And when you're the number one receiver, you can't be a gadget guy. Because if I'm a play caller, when I go to bed at night, I can't have a bunch of plays designed just for you to get the ball when I'm asking you to make plays with the ball in your hand. At some point, you have to be able to get open on your own, score on your own, and let me just work around the other guys around you when you're that marquee guy coming into an offense that we're looking for, playmakers on the outside, not in the backfield. And I agree with you. At some point, yes, get them the ball to get them going. But on the other end, I have to be able to line you up at the slot receiver and say, hey, listen, run an option route. And it's on you now to understand where the leverage is it inside or outside, and determine where you're going to run against zone or man. And that's where I see the improvement that he needs to make in terms of his development as a number one or number two or number three receiver. Because at the end of last year, we saw Lincoln Riley just said, you know what, he's not even a number 4 receiver for us right now. He's just a gadget guy that we got to get the ball in his hands on special teams. And they don't have to punch you or kick you the ball.
I was going to say, where's the star power out of Zachariah Branch? 2 years ago, there were national analysts after he had that special teams touchdown against, I think it was San Jose State, comparing him to Reggie Bush and his Heisman great career at USC. We have not seen that kind of flash out of Branch the last 2 seasons since that debut. He's got 1 offensive touchdown his last 21 college games after scoring twice his first 2 starts. Nothing since. 1 100-yard receiving game these last 2 years. And in my opinion, there's a great deal of pressure on Georgia OC Mike Bobo to find ways to get Branch the ball in space. And like you said, Smoke, not just make him a gadget guy or a bubble screen guy to the house, or maybe someone who just takes a jet sweep 3 or 4 times a game. He's got to not only perfect the route tree, but he's got to become one of Georgia's top receivers. There's a reason that we ranked him at 24/7 Sports as one of the top wideouts this cycle. It's because of the ceiling Zachariah Branch has. But, I mean, to me, he's got to be a more consistent player. He certainly has the spotlight now in the SEC for a preseason top 5 team to do that. But, man, 1 100-yard game the last 20 starts, 1 touchdown over that stretch. Zachariah's got to show me a lot more.
Yeah, I'll follow up on this real quick, too, because I think a lot of people are going to give Lincoln Riley a lot of credit for the offensive playmaker or offensive play caller that he is, and they should. When you watch Zachariah Branch this year, it felt like a player without a vision, without a home. This is important for Mike Bobo and for Georgia to say, like I said, or how do you manufacture this guy touches? Because he is versatile, right? So in terms of him winning on the outside, I don't think that's his cup of tea. He's going to have to win out of the slot. I also think you can use him out of the backfield, and I think that's really important. I talked about that committee approach. Sure, USC had a ton of receivers, a lot of options there. Georgia, Mike Bobo, they cannot get lost in a very cookie-cutter approach, which I think is a temptation of a lot of college offensive coordinators. You have to be driven by your personnel, and Zachariah Branch has a unique skill set that they have to tap into at Georgia because they desperately need that playmaking ability. It's going to be really, really interesting with this spring, going into the summer, going into the fall. How are they going to really utilize to maximize all of the physical traits and gifts that Zachariah Branch has?
And Coop, as a personnel guy, you and I both know when you get a guy like that in your building, before you even sign him, you have to have a plan for him coming in. Because if you don't have a plan for him coming in, just like you said, it's going to be dead money. Because everyone's going to be waiting for Zachariah Branch to be a player. And it's going to be like, hey, where is he? Oh, he has to. Where is he? And at the end of the day, the boosters that's given the 500 to 600, whatever he's costing them, where is the production? Because if you didn't have a vision for him, why'd you bring him in?
Yeah, it's not just Zachariah Branch that has a lot to prove. Sounds like Mike Bobo has a lot to prove as well. It's one thing to get the guy. It's another thing to utilize him to the best of his ability.